Okay, let's get started. So has everybody got the coffee? Everyone been to the bathroom? Ready to move on? Everyone refreshed? We'll just give everyone a few seconds to get back to their seats. If they don't make it back in time, they might miss out on something, just as a hint. So my name's Paul Bain. I'm a solutions engineer based out of London. And I'm going to be talking today about how you can promote your app on Facebook using the solutions that we have. But we want this to be an interactive session. So the first thing we're going to do, and the first thing you need if you're going to run ads, is some credit. So what we're going to do is we're going to give everybody here $30, which is about £19.20, I think, right now, to actually have some credit to use on Facebook. So my helpers are going to distribute these now. Yay! Credit. For anyone who doesn't get a credit, there's loads of people here, so great to have a big audience. We might not have enough for everyone. If you don't get one, all you need to do is just head over to where you registered, put your name down, and we'll get you some credit afterwards. Great. I'm going to trust this isn't too distracting. I know how exciting swag can be. So by this point in the day, we've learned how do we integrate really lightweight social touches like our share dialogues. How do we use the open graph to get distribution and actually make our app super social? But we still have one problem, right? How do we get people to use our app in the first place? In a world where there are 700,000 apps on Android, or 700,000-ish on iOS, how do we get noticed in the first place? So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. How can Facebook help using our solutions and our products to actually get people to use your apps? So I think someone everybody should have heard of, hopefully, is Fab.com. If you haven't heard of them, they are an e-commerce site that sells like cool and quirky stuff. So if you've heard of the Beardo hat, for example, like a hat with a beard, these are the guys that sell it. And they actually use Facebook very heavily to actually drive people to use their app. And so I'm actually going to be using them as an example today. How do they see so much success with Facebook? How do they get 5 times higher click-to-install rate than other channels? And then how can you use these same things in your apps too? So this is how we think about how our products can work. So I'm going to talk about 2 things today. The first one is how can Facebook help you to get the users in the first place using our mobile app install ads. The second thing is, based on the social content that we've put into our app, so through our stories, how can we actually use those to then drive traffic back to the site? And then how can we promote those to get even more users, so to make sure the most number of our friends see those stories? So the first thing is mobile app installs. So how many people like this type of ad? A few? Tom, you don't count, you're on my team. So this is like what we think of when we thought about mobile apps maybe a year ago. Like super intrusive, very untargeted, and things that you just can't get rid of. They're probably not going to be relevant to what I'm doing in the app, so it's just frustrating. So how do Facebook ads actually differ? So this is what a Facebook ad looks like. I'm assuming most people would have seen one here if you use Facebook. So they're a much more rich experience that's seamlessly integrated into the mobile newsfeed of Facebook. It's something which you're already engaging with, so it's much more likely that you're going to see it and interact with it. It's a much more rich actually ad placement in the first place, so you can actually tell people more effectively what your app's actually about. And if you don't like it, you can just swipe past it. So this is how it works. You click on it, it takes you directly to the native app store, and that's it. They've installed your app. The other problem we have is, how do we actually find the right people to install our app in the first place? And this is something which Facebook is great at, because we have people's real identity. That's one of the real powers of Facebook is, people are their real selves when they're using Facebook. And that means when you're targeting your apps, ads to people who you think are the right people, you can make sure that you're only showing the ads to the right people. So the first thing we have is demographic information. So for example, if your app is a social app based on people going to events in London, you only want to show that ad to people who are actually in London. And you might know that most people who tend to use your app in the first place are between like 20 and 25, and they're mostly male, for example, because they want to go to football matches. So what you can do is make sure that you're only showing your ad to the right people. And then one of the other great things we actually added in the last couple of months is the ability to target the actual mobile you're on and things down to the operating system, device, and whether or not you're using Wi-Fi. So how many people here support iPhone OS 2, for example, or Android Cupcake? Anybody? Of course you don't. So why would you allow your ad to be shown to people who can't actually see that in the first place? So one of the things we allow you to do is actually say, my app is optimized towards people who are on iPhone 5 and above. So I don't really want to show it to anyone else. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, right, don't show this ad to anyone else. You might also say, I don't want it to show it to people on iPads. I only want to show it to people who are using an iPhone or an iPod Touch. And the other great thing we've added is actually Wi-Fi targeting. So, if you have a large app, you might not want to allow people to, use their data usage by downloading your app. People are less likely to do that if they see it's big. Or if actually it's above the size that you can download on 3G, you're going to want to target using Wi-Fi. So this is something we added, and we've seen it actually really increase the rate at which people are installing the apps after seeing the ad. The third thing, obviously, we have are things like social elements. So what do people like? What are people actually interested in? Again, you want to make sure the people who are relevant are going to see the right thing. So if you're the case of fab.com and you're promoting furniture, for example, you might want to only show this to people who like furniture. Or we also have things like broad category targets, which might be things like people who have recently moved home. And again, you might want to show furniture ads to just people who might be in the market for actually buying furniture. And the final thing, which is actually super powerful, is something called custom audiences. So what are custom audiences? Custom audiences are a way that you can create a group of people on Facebook that you want to target based upon your existing customers. So I'm going to go into this in a little more detail. But right now, we have 3 ways to do this, using email address, phone numbers, and Facebook user IDs, so if they've logged in using login with Facebook. But today, I'm actually going to be announcing, and we'll go into more detail, for the first time, a new thing, and it drops in for that reason, called app user IDs. So more about custom audiences, just to highlight how powerful this is. So traditionally, you could only find the types of people that you wanted to find on Facebook, based on things I was saying, age, location. But actually, if you have information about your customers, instead of just saying, I want to target this to males in London who are international travelers between 18 and 24, I can actually say, I want to show this to my customers who signed up on my website but aren't using my mobile app yet. So let's just create an audience of these people based upon the information that we have already, and then in a privacy-safe way, upload that to Facebook and show them relevant ads. But again, we have another problem, right? We have to have people have registered to actually do this. You have to ask them to give you their email address, phone number, or logged in with Facebook to actually do this. So this is where app user IDs are the solution. So this is the first time we've announced this, so it's our one and only product launch for today. But what are app user IDs? So with everything we do, we're always concerned about privacy on Facebook. So this is a way that within your mobile app, you can make a request to Facebook, and we will return you an encrypted user ID. So this isn't linked with your Facebook user ID, so you can't use it for that purpose. It's not a unique identifier. But within your app, that means that you can record when people take certain actions. So I think the obvious one, for example, would be if you have registration in your app, when people open your app for the first time, grab the user ID. And if those people don't log in, maybe show them another mobile app ad to say, hey, you didn't complete your registration. Why not just complete your registration? And the other thing is, what if people have made certain purchases? So if you have purchases within your app, then you could record after that, grab an encrypted user ID, create your audience with it, and then maybe show them other relevant things or other relevant apps that you have. So every time that you do this with your app, you'll actually receive a different app user ID. So you can't use it for a unique identifier. That's one thing just to bear in mind. But it's a great way then to start to make sure that you're creating these audiences of people who are relevant for other things to do with your business. So who has a mobile app in the App Store today? By a show of hands. I'm guessing most people. I'm guessing everyone else is working on it, hopefully, as a result of today. So that means you are ready to run ads right now. You don't need anything else if you have an app in the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. So actually what we're going to do now is, you've all got some credit, hopefully. We're actually going to walk through how simple it is to do that. So the first thing, if you haven't done this already, hopefully everyone would have done this today at one point, is actually creating an app on Facebook. So if you haven't done that, just head over to developers.facebook.com/apps, and you can create an app just hitting the big blue button. And then we actually really need just a very few bits of information to actually start running ads. Obviously, the first one is you need to name what your app is called. So this example is Travel with Friends. And then for each of the apps that you have, one for iOS, we just need some information. So iOS, we just need the bundle ID, along with either the iPhone App Store ID or the iPad App Store ID, if they're different, that is. And then for Android, we only need one piece of information, which is the package name. So from this, we can then go ahead and start to create ads. One other thing you're going to want to do to make sure you have the best experience with your ads is actually to head to app details and set this logo. So if you noticed on the ads before, at the top left, it shows your App Store logo. This is because it's been set on Facebook, not because we've grabbed it from the store. So we're going to walk through actually how you create your ads. But I want to tell you how you can buy them first. So we have 4 ways to buy them. So the first way is through the developer dashboard. So developers.facebook.com/ads. You can right away there go and create an ad. The way I'm going to talk through today is actually what we call the ads create tool. So the way that you can actually do it on Facebook is by far the easiest way to create an ad. So if you're doing it for the first time, definitely use it this way, and that's what we'll be talking about today. The third way is what we call the Facebook Power Editor. So if you want to power up your ads and actually start to do things at scale, so things like testing and custom audiences, you're going to want to use the Power Editor. So I'll talk about that a little bit. I'll show you how to use it simply, but it's a bit more complicated than our other ways of doing things, so I don't want to go too much into detail. And the final thing I want to just shout out is a program we have called the Preferred Marketing Developer Program. So the PMDs, Preferred Marketing Developers, are technology companies who create tools to help you do things on Facebook. So some of them help you to create apps. But in the case of what we're talking today, we have what's called Ads API PMDs. And these guys really help you to scale up what you're doing on Facebook. So they have tools that do things like date parting. So if you only want to show your ad to people at a certain time of day, they do things like creative testing at scale. So if you have 100 creatives and 100 different titles and that sort of thing, you can get these guys to create your campaigns for you, do your testing and all the measurement within that. So I know we actually have some PMDs in the room today. Anyone from a PMD? We have 1, 2, a couple. So we have a few today, so that's just a shout out for those guys. So what I'm going to do now is actually switch over to my laptop and hopefully be able to walk you through how you create an ad. Okay. I have to log in. Okay. Hopefully this is going to show up. Yes, it is. So me and a bunch of friends actually create an app called Beer Map. Thought it was pretty relevant as we're in a brewery today, so I'm actually going to be using this just as an example. So if you want to create an ad, easiest way is to go to facebook.com/ads/create. And then you should see a list of all the things that you have related to you on Facebook, so the pages and all the apps. So actually, because this is an app install ad, I'm just going to go ahead and select Beer Map, the application. And right away, what it does is it goes off and grabs all the information that you've already entered about the app if you have it within our App Center. So you can see that I have, Beer Map is a social beer rating for iPhone. I'm just going to change that, download now. You can also select up an image. So we say you can create an image of about 600 to 360 pixels. I'll actually go through what the best types of images are later, but I just have one on my desktop, so I'm just going to grab that next to my stuff folder. I'm sure other people have those. And right away, you can start to see exactly what the app install ad is going to look like. Also shows that 12 of my friends use that, so that's pretty cool. I didn't know we had that many users. So that's the creative. So the next thing is actually, as I said, making sure you choose the right audience. So actually, I can say that the minimum version of iOS that we actually support is 5. I blame Matt because he's lazy. And also that we only want to show this to people using iPhones because it does things like GPS and that sort of thing. So I can select that. I'm also going to say that I only want people who are using it on Wi-Fi, and go ahead and say, actually, I only want to show this to people who are in London. Because it's an app about beer, it's probably best to make sure that only people who are 18 can use it too, and men like beer. So that was the targeting around who I want to show it to. And this is the other part that I wanted to talk about, was the power of the interests and the broad category targets. So, for example, in the interests, I could go ahead and look for things that are like, well, I don't know if Truman still make beer. Truman's, maybe not. But I could look for beer. So this is our precise interest. So it creates keywords about the things, type of things that people like. We also have the broad categories. So I can look under here. One thing to note is you'll see in here that we have categories for mobile users. So mobile users who are using Android, iOS, and other operating systems too. Our recommendation is when you're creating mobile apps, do not touch these. Do not select them. They will not make your ad better. They'll probably make it much worse. So make sure your targeting is in the other section up here, where you select the iOS level you want to use and that sort of thing. Do not select these sorts of things, because these are people who are interested in those sorts of operating systems, rather than people who might actually have that right app. So that's the advice. So I'm going to hit some interests. We have one for beer, wine, and spirits. That probably works best. The other thing you'll note is I have my custom audiences here. So these are things that I've uploaded already. So I have my beer map users that I created in a custom audience. So if you create those through the Power Editor, they'll show up here. I'll also show you how to create those in a minute. And the final thing is just naming the campaign. So I'm going to call this MDC campaign for Mobile Developer Conference. I actually set one of these up yesterday with a high budget and forgot to turn it off. So I need to put a low budget today, in case I forget. And I'm just going to run it continually. If I hit place order, that should be it. Hopefully this was as easy as it goes. There we go. So that's the ad all set up. So one thing to note is that we have a pending status if you haven't created ads before. That means we just have a team that reviews these. Normally it's very quickly, almost always within 24 hours, but normally actually much faster, generally within 2 hours. So you should be up and running very quickly. So the other thing I mentioned that we have, which is the more advanced feature, and hopefully this isn't too small, it looks pretty big up there, is what's called the Power Editor. So this is the way that you can start to scale things. So actually what I'm going to do is just download all my stuff that I've just done. And I'll go ahead and grab all the information about my account, all the ads that I've created in the past. And if I hit my active campaigns, there we go. It's the MDC campaign. So I'm going to switch over to ads. There we go. So we can see that the ad that I've just created is pending. And because I really like testing, what I'm going to do is actually do some creative testing. So right away, I can just hit duplicate. Pops up and says, which campaign do you want to put it into? I'm just going to select the same one for now. I can go in, change the text, just like it's awesome, and then upload it to Facebook. And right away, that's created a new ad, so it's super simple to start to do some testing as well. So the other thing we mentioned, and I just want to make sure this isn't cut off, it is a little bit. On the left-hand side, we have audiences for custom audiences. So within here, this is where you can create and manage the custom audiences we talked about before. So I can, for example, hit Create Audience. And in here, I can just name it, upload either emails, UIDs, or phone numbers. And the thing that we're launching today is the app user IDs from 10 p.m. tonight, 10 a.m. PST, which is 6 p.m. our time. You'll start to see the new option of app install ads, app user IDs. OK. So I think that's it for creating ads. Hopefully that shows it was simple to create, simple to use Power Editor a little bit and start to do some testing. So now I'm actually going to talk through some best practices and switch back to my presentation. OK. So the thing to remember when you're creating mobile app install ads around the creative is that Facebook primarily is a place where you interact with your friends and the sort of brands that you like. So you need to remember that you need to try and include things which are inherently social. So real people and real things are a really effective way to actually show people an advert. So instead of being a really jarring experience, which is sort of heavy on marketing, you're actually showing people things which already naturally sort of flow into their experience. The second thing is having a strong call to action. So including within your creative things like free download. It's telling people that it's not a paid app and that they can install it very quickly. Also quickly showing people the benefit of why they'd want to install this app. Including screenshots of actually the mobile device has been very effective. I think, again, this is showing people what they're actually getting. It's very easy to see that this is a mobile app that I'm going to get for my mobile device, which makes it more obvious to the user what they're seeing. And the final thing, again, is including app screenshots, so showing people what the experience is going to be like. And we always recommend to test, test, test. So one thing we always ask is, which one of these do you think was the most effective creative out of all of them? And the real answer is nobody knows. And that's why we really need to make sure that whenever we're doing things, as engineers, we always need to be testing, changing creative, and just making sure that we're actually promoting the thing which is most relevant. And that nicely brings me on to measurement. So one of the other problems we have now is we've created our apps, our ads, but we don't actually have a way to measure how many people have installed those. So to do this, all you need is one line of code for iOS and one line of code for Android. So these are the two. The iOS one just goes in application did become active, and then for Android, in your activities, you just put this on the onResume method. And all this does is fire back to Facebook to say, hey, someone installed this ad, and then you can start to do things like ROI tracking within our ads manager. The other thing is you may already have a measurement partner integrated. If you have someone, like a bunch of these, like Appsolar, Adavan, AdX, I know there's some of the guys here today as well, you may already be ready to start measuring things on Facebook. So what these guys do already are things like lifetime value calculation for other channels, and they can start to do this through Facebook as well. So that means they just ping back to their servers and let them know that something happened, and then seamlessly they'll also let Facebook know that that happens. So the other thing around testing is you can start to see who's been installing your app. So this is our Insights page. So within Insights, you can go to developers.facebook.com again, /apps, and we provide a bunch of insights around who's been installing your app, and the numbers that are paid, the numbers that were organic as well, so you can start to separate those. So you can see how many of my installs actually came as a result of all the cool work I've been doing around adding share dialogues, for example. What was the value of that to me? And the other thing that no one else can really do is demographic information. In other channels, you can kind of guess what your composition of users is, but actually, with Facebook, we can actually tell you what is the average age. Is it more men or is it more women who are using your app? And then from this, you can start to use this information to target, again, the most relevant ads and the most relevant creative to the right customers. So you think back to fab.com again, they can make sure that while we're seeing that mostly men in London are the people who are using this app. So I'm actually going to show that people more relative creators based on that. And the other final thing is, when I was creating my ad, when I was setting my budget, one of the things I selected was optimizing my budget, trying to get more installs. So actually, based on the information we get from an install, we can actually then start to look for people who are similar to the types of people who are installing your app. So if we notice certain characteristics, we can then make sure that we only show that app, or that app install ad, to the people who are most likely to actually install the app. And the recommendation for this is to try and create a broad audience, and then let the algorithm optimize towards the people who are most likely to actually click and install the ad. So I think it's always good to include just some results and how other people did it too. So one of the most successful cases we've had is a company called Poshmarks, which is a startup that allows you to buy and sell things, basically. And they launched using mobile app install ads on Facebook. And they did really three things. Wow. The first thing they did was look at that audience, work out relative creatives, relative images based on those types of audiences, and then only show the right creatives to the right people. The second thing they did was using things like Facebook targeting for location based upon parties they were having. So, in a similar way to like Tupperware parties, they have events where people can get together and sell things. With this, they can use the power of Facebook's targeting to make sure, again, that if they have an ad that's about a party in a certain area, they can just show people who are actually in that area the ad for that mobile app. And finally, what they did is a lot of testing. These guys were very good at using the Power Editor to actually create a bunch of different audiences, create a bunch of different creatives, and make sure, again, that they're only paying to promote the ones which were the best. And the results are pretty clear, actually. They saw that they 3 times better ROI compared to other channels, and at 20% lower cost. So, better ROI, but much cheaper. An example that hopefully everyone here would have heard of was O2 Tracks. So hopefully a load of people in this room will have downloaded O2 Tracks. It was an app that launched a couple of months ago, I think now. And Facebook was the primary channel that they were using to promote this app. So within a few days, they showed this app install ad to over 9 million people in the UK. Sorry, that's right. Yeah, that's right. They showed it to 9 million people in a 3-day period. And as a result, reached number 6 in the App Store. So it's a really positive way that you can start to see good results in your App Store rankings. And actually, I think this is an App Annie graph that we just grabbed, which shows when they started to spend on mobile app install ads, so in like the bottom of the trough, and then how quickly then, within a 3-day period, reached number 6 in the App Store. So that was the first way that we can drive people to actually install our apps. I'm going to take questions at the end if that's okay, in the first place. So driving people to your app using mobile app installs. And the second thing is, how do we actually get people who are friends of the people using an app to install the ad using promotion? And this is what we call sponsored stories. So we think about mobile app installs as the voice of your brand or the voice of your app, and you asking people to install it. Whereas actually sponsored stories are really the voice of your friend. So by promoting them, you're turning your friends into an advocate of a brand or advocate of the app that they're using. So encouraging people to share truly social stories is the best way then to actually drive more people to actually install your app in the first place. So I think we have a few examples here. This is actually an example of 2 games that people have shared. And obviously using the deep linking that we heard about earlier, if your friends haven't got the app installed at the time, what will happen is they'll click on the open graph action that's generated or the share that's originated from your app. They'll be redirected to the native app store. And then if they install the app, they'll see the experience. So this is, again, walking through an example. I'm actually really terrible at this game, so I don't know why I chose this as an example. But so in this case, I have the option to share something I'm doing and reminding my friend, like, it's your turn to take a move. So I can share that to Facebook. And this appears now. This is Christine's version. It's actually encouraging her friends to come and play with their friends on Facebook. And then as a result, that drives her friends to actually start to use the app. And the great thing is, again, when we talk about showing things to the right people on the right platform, you have a lot of options about where you can actually promote these stories. So if you do have a desktop-enabled site and you have a mobile site, you can make sure that promoting around Facebook in the right channels will mean that people are driven to the right store at the right time for your app, and they're always getting the best experience possible. And the other great thing is, once your friends are there as well, you can encourage them to share as well. So it's like this virtuous circle of sharing. So one of the great things we have as well is more insights. Insights around what are the things that people are doing most in your app, and what is actually driving the most people to download your app, and what's actually being most engaging. So again, with all these things, we really encourage you to test, to analyze what your results are, to leverage the information that we provide as well. So within our insights, they're generally pretty varied and pretty good insights, and then start to optimize based around those. So if you see if one story is particularly engaging, then the best thing to do then as well is obviously start sponsoring that, and that will drive more people to use your app. So with this, you have 2 ways to buy it. One is the Power Editor, and the second one is through PMDs. It can be slightly more complicated to set this up. So generally, when people do this, it is through the Power Editor or through one of our PMD partners. We see these being a really effective way. And as we see that the way that people actually use these is a lot of people are now having sort of an always-on strategy for generating demand for new users. So they'll have an always-on strategy to sort of promote mobile app install ads, and then actually around key features as they test to do with what's being shared within their app, what they'll actually do is then vary their budget based upon what is actually performing well and which stories are the most social things coming out of the app. So I think we're nearly there. This is just a recap on what we said then. So the first thing is, obviously, drive users to install your app using mobile app install ads, making sure that we do have really social points integrated into the app so that we are sharing things that people are really going to interact with. And then finally, promoting things that, to our friends. So we're making sure that all the friends of the people using your app will also see them too. So I think that's basically it for today. We are going to be around for the open hour session later on. There's a few of us who are going to be there to help out. I know that you guys probably have a bunch of questions because it's not the most familiar thing that we talk to developers around. But hopefully this has been pretty interesting. I don't know if we've got time for questions.
Yes.
Yeah. Can we grab some mics? I think we have a couple of minutes left.
Hi there, James Hobbs at Groovy. With all this ad optimization that you're showing, can we drive that programmatically?
In what sense, sorry?
Well, is there an API that we could push different creatives up and track the performance of them and then swap them over?
So this is what our PMDs partners do, actually. So we don't generally give access to the ads API directly, but we work with our PMD partners to make sure that they're providing tools that do allow you to do that.
Thanks.
Hi there, Alex from Atom Studios.
Hi.
We have 8 applications that use this system to increase downloads. And from our point of view, it only works first week or 2 weeks. Because when you create a new campaign, you get a lot of downloads, impressions, everything. But soon the ads get lazy. Not impressions, not clicks. But if you stop the campaign for maybe 1 week or 2, and then press again, it will start again. Is there a way to avoid that behavior?
Yeah, I'm not sure about this specific case, but I think still, like, our recommendations generally apply. Like, our system wants to show relevant ads to people, right? So we just need to make sure that we're always testing our creative. We're making sure that we're keeping our messaging really fresh. And I think by making sure you're doing creative rotation, you're probably going to get the best out of your ads in the first place. So.
Hello, I'm Benjamin from Levu.
Hi.
I have a question regarding the audience targeting with the device IDs. So far when you look in the Power Editor, there is called that you have to insert Facebook IDs.
Yeah, so this is launching tonight at 6 p.m.
Okay.
So from tonight, so this is brand new. You guys were the first to hear about it.
All right.
And the way that it works is within our SDKs, we're going to provide the ability to generate these.
And which IDs from Apple and Android?
No, so these are something Facebook gives you, completely encrypted and super privacy safe. So these are the things that will come from Facebook.com via our SDKs.
All right. Okay.
I'm looking over this way. I don't know if there's more questions this way. But.
Hello there. I've just seen like the App Store URL being used in a way. Is there a way to deep link as well with the help of the Facebook SDK? So with a promotional ad.
As in deep link?
Deep link into my app. So if for example, I market London users, show them the London offer in case I have one.
Yeah, I think there are ways to do that. I'm not entirely sure of how to do that right off the top of my head, but we do have ways to deep link into mobile apps too. So we can catch up afterwards, actually, if that's useful.
Cool, thanks.
Hi there, I work at the business here in London. We did a campaign using this tool a few months ago. It was good. Say if you have, say, £100,000 to spend on a campaign like this, say you're a big marketing client. With your experience, how would you spend that? Is there a scale advantage of spending in one burst, like in 10 days, like a lot of clients do it? Or is it better to just do bits by bits?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I guess it depends on the type of audience that you're trying to attract. So if you have, I guess with all this again is how do we make sure we're showing the right ads to the most relevant people, and that's the way that we want to approach it. So yeah, I'm not sure if I can give recommendations about how to reach the most people so quickly, but I guess, generally if you want to reach a lot of people, you need a really wide audience and a high bid price probably. So, but yeah. One at the front.
Here. 1 second.
Thank you. Martin from Blipar in London. Can you distinguish using your telemetry between an app install caused by an advert versus a share from that app?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we report those separately. So one thing I actually didn't show you, which I should have done, is we have 2 reports that you can see. One is within the ads manager, where we created the ads in the first place, and the other one is within the insights tool. Within the ads manager, you can see things that purely came from paid advertising. But then within our insights tool, we separate both paid and organic reach, organic installs. So absolutely. So that's on developers.facebook.com/apps. And then if you head down to insights, you'll see that.
Okay, thank you.
Hi there. Tom Pepper from Funky Pigeon. One thing that we do is we put promotion codes in the actual app itself. So is it possible to take data from the ad itself and then pre-populate it within the app?
So no, right now there's not a way to do that.
Curses.
So. Last question.
Thank you. I've noticed some of your mobile app installs have a star rating underneath. Is there a way to enable that? Because we've got a 5-star app on the App Store, and yet we can't get that star rating to show up.
Sure. So the star ratings are based on Facebook's ratings, not on the native App Store ratings.
Right.
So once you get a certain number within our store, not store, whatever it's called, App Center, then the rating will start to show.
Okay, so
but I don't know if there's a correlation actually between.
Okay, so it needs to be rated on Facebook rather than in the App Store.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
The next session, yeah, sorry, I'm also wearing one, believe it or not. A bit confusing. So the next session here will be by Alan, who is going to talk about how we build and ship our suite of Facebook apps on iOS. And in the other room, we will hear from Jackson, who is going to talk to us about how we made our mobile web app faster. So 10 minutes from now.